Thank you so much. Sorry, I clicked on the unmute, but it was sometimes technology. You have to be strong on the mouse. My apologies. So welcome to our class. I hope your week is going well. I was just saying time is flying, and but I'm very excited about all the students and what I have seen in class so far. I think we are going to have a very good semester. I'm pretty excited about the labs that I have seen as well for the other class that we're together. And it's a beautiful day. So I hope you had a bit of time to enjoy the day. If not, then after this class, perhaps you'll have some time. So welcome to our user empathy and usability course today. So again, we are together for until 3. You're going to get a break, 10 minutes to 3. You'll have a 10-minute breaks. I will stay if there are questions. And then after, you will be meeting with Yvonne. So let me just share my screen. And let's do a quick review of our lab from last week. So I had asked you, in terms of a lab, I had asked you to review the demo about Think Aloud technique. So it's a short video. I hope you had a chance to look at the video. It will introduce you to think aloud when we actually do usability testing. The key with usability testing, there are 2 types, and we are going to go more in depth with usability testing per se, but I'm trying to introduce you to some of the concept for user usability testing. One of them is you have the options to do moderated sessions, usability testing moderated, in person or remote. For our assignment or class assignment, you'll have the option to do remote or in person as well if you want with participants. It will all depends if people are comfortable of going to a location and do the usability testing with you. But I would say it's probably better and easier given COVID to do it remote. So that means using a internet and using a platform like Teams or Zoom to do the usability testing, and then you can do the recording as well. So the key though is to have a facilitator and have someone to facilitate the sessions, and then we are going our assignments will be facilitated. So all of usability testing will be facilitated. So you will be the facilitator, and you'll have a chance to practice, and you will have the participants to actually use the site or the application that you've selected. You will be asking them to think loud. This is the power of usability testing, is to have participants to actually use your product and you to be there, to be able to observe, to be able to listen. Do more listening than talking, but you'll be able to do some probing, and we are going to practice. When do we do probing? When do we ask a question? But I say 80% of the time to 90% of the time, you want to be listening and taking note and observing. And then from time to time, you'll be asking questions to clarify certain things you might have seen. But the way for you to get into people's head and know what they're trying to do will be to use Think Aloud. So the technique Think Aloud is very powerful, and it's probably what differentiates usability testing, remote and or in-person usability testing moderated. Moderated, that means there is a facilitator like us, like me, which we will demo as well, in the room with the participants and having them to do Think Aloud. Otherwise, you could just do a survey, the Think Aloud, and we will learn about what do we want them to do, and then but hearing what the participant is trying to do and what they're saying and where they're having challenges and when they're having challenges is the power, and very powerful. The other item I give you for the lab is to form the team. So I've seen, and I put a comment, I think we still have 1 or 2 teams that only have 2 people. So we need to have 3 people per team. So make sure that someone volunteers to move from a team of 4 to help our team that has 2 individuals. That's really, really key. And at this stage as well, you should have chosen a brand or a website or an app for your assignments, and that's really, really important. Now, for the main project assignment, that will be the combined, where you're going to use either the same brand that you're working with Yvonne, and this is where we are going to be building RI and our design for a big project with 5111. But we have multiple assignments before we do the main projects that you need to have the brand. So that should be the same brand that you will use for the other assignment from the other class. Some of you said the small assignments, and tomorrow you'll see that I've put numbers to them. But you should hopefully have a brand. I know some people, I think, said they're going to use Nintendo, and other people, maybe some Shopper Drug Mart or pharmacy. Perhaps you may want to use some of the brands that you've used for our 5111 lab. So a lot of you have used Ticketmasters, Cineplex, and I've seen Amazon, I've seen Prime Time Video. So there's so many good examples that you found already that you could probably be using. Okay. So thank you for all attending. There's so many people. We have about 32, so almost everyone is in this class. We have a busy class today. I think it will be fun. I have some exercises. I will be doing some live demo as well as we go. And let's go to our week number 2. So we are in week 2. Today we are going to start talking about usability heuristic evaluation. And I also have heuristic evaluation for next week, but we may actually next week jump right into usability testing. Why? Because I have found that through the labs for 5111, you seem to have some very good knowledge already of some of the principles. So I think this is going to be a refresh for some of you. And then I really want to go into usability testing because this is where you're going to get a lot of value. But we need to know about the heuristic evaluations, what the heuristic principles are, how do we use them, so that you're preparing for our usability testing. That's really the essence of heuristic evaluation and the heuristic as well. So I have some readings for this week that I have listed. The first one is user goals and task analysis. So when we actually, and again, this is all familiar. Last week, we've done the lab for 5111, the Latch lab, where we've asked you to look at the different ways of grouping content. And the one way to really assess if it's actually a good way of using Latch or using location or using alphabetical order is to know what the user goals are. So, and this is still true with user heuristic evaluation or usability, even usability testing. It's all about the user and the user goals. So you need the context of what are they trying to do? And then you assess, is location a good way of presenting content for someone who's looking for a vacation? Yes, destination is a good one, right? So always having the user, very, very important. So the first reading reminds you about user goal, but also the task analysis. So we need to understand the user goal. So user goal, buying groceries. And then you have to think about what are the steps that people usually follow when they actually are thinking of buying groceries. And you don't necessarily have to think about in terms of when they are on a website. You can just think very broadly. And in fact, when you think of task analysis, you don't really want to be stick into a platform. What do I mean by this? Is you should probably stay away from saying, well, the user will come to a website and then they will search for the product, they will add to a cart. That's not really what we meant by task analysis. You would think about more of when someone builds a grocery list, shopping list, usually they will think about what items do they need. So they will make a list of items based on what their needs are. So they will make a list. They will put breads, they will say eggs, they will see producers, salad, lettuce, whatever, water. And then they will go to a grocery store and find the aisles, right? They're going to find the items in the grocery store. They're going to add them to their basket. They're going to add them to a bag or a cart. And then they will go to a cashier. They will pay. They will either pay by credit card or pay by bank machine. And then they will put the items in a bag and leave, right? So these are the steps. And then this is for someone who wants to buy a grocery store. Let's say that you want to think about the step that someone will go to pick a movie. So maybe if you are doing Prime Amazon and you want to think about the step when someone picks a movie, then there's a step that you would list. So this article will remind you and help you. It's very important to have the steps so that it will give you a sense of the sequence. Is the sequence or the order in which we're showing the user the step to be able for them to accomplish to do grocery shopping or look for a video or inspiration, are they aligned with the user, what the user would expect? There are other articles that I talk about introduction to usability, 101 usability, but I think this will be good because it talks about heuristic evaluation too. I have an article that's talking about think aloud. So you are expected to go through the articles. And I also have UX without user research is not UX. And again, this course is about building empathy. Of course, we don't do user research every time that we build something, but the more you will do user research, the more knowledge you will acquire and the more confident you will feel. as well in your solutions that you're putting forward. So we are going to go. I also have a slide for our lesson slides, our readings, our lecture. So, and I already have it on screen. I don't have to show it now. So this is where now you're going to find the lecture for today. And that link is already available. I think it's been available all week. So I've been making them available whenever I can so that you have a bit of time. I've added some extra notes on how do we conduct a heuristic evaluation. We're going to come back to this. And I also put some notes, just some more insights about some of the heuristics that I find that people are having challenges with under notes. Then this is not, you're not seeing this, but there's a little features test. We're going to do a feature test in class. We're going to try to do a class exercise as well today. And then we have a lab. So there's a lab for this week as well. So, and we have the class recording. The lab for this week will be due for Friday by noon. So I would say the lab this week has more meat than last week. It will definitely be a very good practice for you to put yourself in the mind of user goal. So user goal and then applying the heuristic and doing a assessment or an evaluation, a very high level evaluation, heuristic evaluation of a site. The site is Metro. Some of you have already looked at Metro. But let's spend a little bit of time on the lab today. So the lab is to give you an opportunity to put into practice the heuristic evaluation and the principles. The more you do, the more you practice, the better you will be with the heuristic principles. How familiar are we with the heuristic principles? Is this the first time you hear about heuristic principles? I'd like to hear, you can put in the chat if you are you familiar? Yes or no? Are you familiar or no familiar? First time. Okay. Okay, exciting. Some of you are. So, okay. Heuristics, think of heuristic as design principles. There are 10 of them, 10 that Jacob Nielsen, and I don't know if you've heard of Jacob Nielsen. Jacob Nielsen is a very, very well-known, famous user-centered design guru, and some of you might have heard. I'm glad to see we have some no, but we also have some yes. So the articles, there are articles from maybe last week that I give you for reading as well. I'm losing track of articles and readings because there's so many of them. But the heuristic evaluation and principles are 10 principles that you need to follow to guide yourself when you look at a specific site or a specific web application or a kiosk. It's a guideline for you. It's like a checklist to say, okay, is that website for that specific experience and that micro experience or micro journey supporting the 10 user experience, usability, or heuristic principles for the user, so that if the answer is yes, then we know that it's probably a good design. So again, it starts with a user goal, and then you go through the user goal by yourself as if you were a user. And then first of all, you try to find it, and then you will go through a set of principles. So the principles are 10. This is what we're going to review tonight as well together, but you will have to do some reading and you will have to do a bit of research. And if you've gone through last week's reading, which I think I have shared some heuristic evaluation there, and then we have some for this week, you'll feel confident, but eventually you will know them by heart as well. So the lab for this week is individual. So you have to do the lab individually. And then you have to go to the Metro website. So the link to the website is done. And then it's a grocery store website. Okay. So, and I ask you to not visit the site initially for part one, so that you kind of think about what would you be expecting if you were to go to a grocery store in terms of user goals. So put yourself of, why would I go to Metro? Why would I go to Loblaws? Why would I go to Freshco? Whatever sites or business that you pick, you buy your grocery today, and then you make a list. And then the task will be to practice the 10 heuristics. So I will obviously invite you to read more about the lab. If you have questions, reach out to me. But first, don't visit the site. But this is a grocery store. So I want you to have, first of all, the 10 heuristic available with you. And then I want you to brainstorm. I want you to think of 3 main user goals. And make sure that you include a goal of pre-purchase, like when you're buying, and maybe a goal when you have something bought. So once your grocery store, your grocery order is placed, what could be some of the reasons why you would come back to this site? So I want you to think about what you would expect to be able to do, and I listed some samples with you. Then once you've done the exercise of thinking of user goals, then go to part 2. And part 2 now is you go to the site, and then I want you to evaluate. I want you to judge or make an assessment of, and then pick one of the user goals. And then I want you to go through the user goal, and I want you to say if it's a good experience or a bad experience using the 10 heuristics. So my tip, and here I have some tips. Let me just make the screen a little bit bigger. So as you go through the experience, it's easier if you go through the experience. First of all, try to find it. So if you say my goal is to buy grocery, and you can be very specific and say, I want to buy grocery, and maybe I want to buy items like bread, I want to buy water, I want to buy soap, dish soap, whatever. Try to mix the type of items that you would be interested in. And maybe you want to go as far as saying organic items, non-organic items, and you will see that this is where sometimes things get very complex. So try to see, first of all, if you can find where you go for buying grocery, and then you go through the experience and you make notes. So at this time, just think of a brainstorm as if you were in a brainstorm. So, and don't put yourself too many filters. You just go through the experience, and then you make a list of all the items that you're finding. And then this could be anything. It could also be the order of certain things or things that they want you to do. For example, maybe they ask you to sign up for an account, and you're not prepared to sign up, and you don't want that. You make a list. So make a list of all the items, and then when you've made a list, then this is a time where you're actually going to be trying to match them to a heuristic. And once we've gone through the heuristic tonight, you'll see that this is going to be making a lot of sense. And we're going to come back to the steps. And as I've shown you, I have also listed the steps that you normally go through when you do a heuristic evaluation, like in our lab. So what I have just highlighted is pretty much what you will do in your lab as well. So I'm asking you to list the key user goal and then the steps, and then you go through the experience and you make notes. Okay. So this lab will give you a chance to practice before the first big assignment, which is I think September 28th, right? So our first assignment is about heuristic evaluation. And if you go back to assignments, let me just show you and remind you about our assignments. So this is our part for testing. Our first assignment, which is due September 28th, is about heuristic evaluation. So you will do the same thing that you've done in the lab, but you will do it for the project that you've picked for the semester. So this will be the first assignment that you will do for your projects and your brand that you've picked for your semester. If it's Nintendo, it'll be Nintendo. And then for some of you, depending on what you've picked as a team. The first assignment is also based on a team. I don't think there's an individual part, but if there's one, it will be mentioned as the instruction. Okay. So there is a lab this week, and it will take a little bit more time. I know it's between today and tomorrow. Now, if you do need to have more time for the lab, let me know. I could extend. So I could extend the lab if you feel that you need to have a bit more time. I know it's a bit cumbersome. The goal is not to do a complete heuristic evaluation of the entire site. You pick one user goal and you go through the experience and you make note of where you found issues. Okay, so that's really the goal. You don't have to go through the entire site. You have to do part one, and then from part one, you pick one goal, you go through the experience, and you try to map them to a specific heuristic that we've learned in class today. I give you more hints about heuristics. So for those of you that want to do more and advance your knowledge about heuristic as you do the lab, I say, well, then look at the hints. You'll get more insights. But I think you will enjoy this exercise. And if I think of tomorrow, we're going to be spending more time on the lab in 5111. You seem to have enjoyed the lab in 5111. I will say this lab is probably as fun, if not even more fun. Okay. Are there any questions about the lab before we actually go into our session? You're going to learn now more about heuristic and what the heuristics are. Tomorrow. The lab is due tomorrow for noon. So I think I have a feeling you will be asking for an extension. So it could be Monday. I could change it to Monday. I know this lab has a little bit more elements into it. So it's individual. So you don't have the constraint of having to find time for a team and everybody to be available on the labs on this lab. Hold on. Let me just see. I may be I have so many dates and so many classes. So what did I say for the lab for this week? This week. So the lab for this week, Friday, September 24th. So yes, okay. So then I said next week then. So I think we're good. That's probably a mistake though. But I think we'll be fine for next week. My apology. Okay, so it is next Friday. But if you do it in advance, okay, so if you are able to do the lab in advance, then I would say try to do the lab before the final date because the big assignment is due the 28th, and that will give you almost no time. So I think I need to change the date for the lab, and so that I can give you feedback, so that you have feedback before the assignment. That would be ideal. And then what I can do is I can put the date. My apology, I should have captured this. I can put the date to maybe Tuesday for the lab or Monday. Would Monday work so that I can give you feedback? Would you prefer Monday midnight or Tuesday midnight? I mean, of course, if you do it before, then do it. Okay, we'll do it Monday then. So Monday midnight, so Monday 20th. So you have the weekend, but again, uh, don't do a full heuristic evaluation. It's one goal. You pick one goal. Thank you for pointing it out. My apology. And then go through that experience and then list as many challenges that you see and issues, and then we're going to map them to heuristic evaluation. Okay. So that is what we're going to do. So let's go to heuristics and what those heuristics are. So now we're going to go into our presentation for today. I'm just going to share my screen with you. Okay, so where do your heuristic evaluations fit in is really important. So the heuristic evaluations are done, usually they're done individually, but then you may have multiple people doing the heuristic evaluation. So if you think of Metro, there are 34, 35 of us in the class, 33, including myself. With Metro, we are all doing a heuristic evaluation. So this is called a formal evaluation when you have more than one expert doing a review. So there's multiple of us. We are going to be looking at Metro and we are going to find different challenges with the site, right? So this is more formal. Now we're moving more into a formal heuristic evaluation. Usually you do your heuristic evaluation very early on. So the more experience you will gain, the more confident you will be in doing those kind of heuristic evaluation. But because you're doing this program, your customer will expect you to know if a site is a good site or not and be able to make an assessment in the evaluation. That's really the goal. So the heuristic evaluation, think of it as a website evaluation. It's a method to you as an expert. There's no user involved, right? Here, there's no user involvement, but this helps you to form an opinion about a site using a specific method. So, and the method is we start with the user goals and then we go through the experience and we assess it against the 10 heuristic evaluation. It's usually done very early on. It's done before you do a usability testing. So we are in the process of doing usability testing for this class, and we say before you do a testing, you have to do your own evaluation. First of all, it will help you to understand the website, to understand the product, to understand your client too, right? So let's say that you're picking Nintendo. Maybe Nintendo hire you. They expect you to at least understand their website and have a sense. So the heuristic evaluation gives you an opportunity to make an assessment and understand what is critical on the Nintendo website. What do we want users to do? What does Nintendo want users to be able to do? What do users want to do on Nintendo? And then how are we serving that? How do we deliver the experience of helping a Nintendo client to actually find inspiration for a game if that's one of the goals? Or I want to buy an online game, then what is that experience? So that at the end of a heuristic evaluation, you have a very good idea of how good or bad the site is, maybe areas that you think that are problematic that you will want to test in usability testing. right? So this is why it's our first assignment. So it's the first assignment where you're actually going to do your own review of your site, the site you will want to do usability testing, the real usability testing. But you want to do your assessment of the site and say, I believe that Nintendo has the following 5 challenges that are critical. They are affecting user goals that are very important for the business, or they're affecting business. We're afraid that we're going to lose business. So we think that we have all the following issues, and then we say, do we agree? And we take those issues, and then we go into usability testing, and we ask participants to actually go through the experiences. So the heuristic evaluation is done by yourself. There's no users. It's preparing. It's helping you to prepare for your test, usability testing. And then the usability testing is done with real user. So what happened is the usability testing will tell you, you were right. You were right, Kevin. There are these issues. Or perhaps you could learn in usability testing that the issues are not as bad as you thought they were. And there are new issues that you have not thought of. So it's normal, right? So that's where the usability heuristic evaluation fit. It's very, very early on. So you will often do a heuristic evaluation, or I will say, every time someone asks you to actually make an assessment or make a judgment about their website, you kind of have to put yourself in the mindset of doing a heuristic evaluation. And then you're probably going to start by saying, well, what is the key one thing that you want a customer to be able to do on your site? And then you're going to start thinking about your heuristic and the principles, and you're going to start going through the experience, and you're going to use the principles and remember about the principles. So we are doing the heuristic before we actually do the real usability testing with our participants. The heuristic evaluation, you may actually have clients that will hire you to do just that, to just do a heuristic evaluation and give an assessment, so that they will get a sense at the end of the heuristic evaluation, you will get a sense of how good or bad my site is, and maybe things that we should consider, or maybe redesigning or redoing. You may not always have a usability testing post following a heuristic evaluation, but at least your client or yourself have a bit of a sense of what do we think is broken with our site. Then you can also then do some analytics at that point. And you can maybe, if it's a website, you may want to review your website analytics and see, so we think that this experience is problematic. Do we see a lot of visits? Do we see a lot of conversions? Do we see people dropping off? Then you have a better sense of why maybe they might be dropping off, because you may find that some of the fields or some of the messaging or the site is actually not preventing errors, which are, now I'm going through a list of heuristics. So they are used for multiple purposes and intent, but it's for you to get a good sense of how good or bad our site is. You may hear the term inspection. So it is as if you're actually doing an inspection of a site, right? So you are going through the site and you're trying to go through a checklist and see if the site is actually doing a good job in helping the user to accomplish their goal. That's a bit of, you're going to hear sometime inspection. And often you are a expert. You'll be an expert in the domain, or you may not know much about the industry. But of course, the more you know about the industry, the better it is. But the principles, the 10 heuristics, are agnostic of any industry. They do apply for all industries. Now, the heuristic evaluation have been around since 1993. The 10 heuristic have been around for a long time. They are actually listed on the screen here. They've been around for a very long time. They don't change. Why don't they change? They're based on psychology. So they're based on human psychology. And what you will find in your program at school, every time that something is based on human psychology, they stick around for a long time. So the first time I heard about heuristic evaluation was 25 years ago. They're still the same. The 10 heuristic evaluation have not changed. The technology, right? The context of the heuristic, our products, our technology have changed, but the user goals don't necessarily change. And the psychology behind the heuristic don't change either. So it's very based on psychology. It's very based on how people think, how people memorize, how people save the information. It's also based on what people expect in terms of flexibility and being in control of the experience. So I'm kind of exposing you to the specific heuristic, but we have them listed here. In each of the bubble is one of the heuristic that are part of the 10 heuristic, but think of them as principle, or think of them as things to check and check against. And you're going through a checklist, and then you're going to think about, great, are my 10 principles actually supported when I go through that experience? So there are 10 of them. And as I said, they don't really change. They haven't changed. Now, Jacob Nielsen actually every year will do a study and a research to see, have they changed? Have the heuristic evaluation changed? We'll be adding more. And the answer has been no for almost 20, since 1994 or 1993, I believe they were added. They were presented. They are a very good tool to use, and you will find yourself that quite often when we say that the website is not easy to use, we are actually referring to one or two or three or more heuristics as well. So now what you're going to be able to do, now that you are going to know that we have these 10 heuristics that you can use, when someone asks you, is the site easy to use or not? There is a definition for ease of use, and there's 5 components that I think I shared with you last week. Easy to learn, easy to remember, satisfying, and efficient as well to use. That is, I think, what we say when something is actually easy to use or usable. But if you think of the heuristic evaluation in the 10, if you use them, you can tell someone, yes, the site is usable because it's supporting all of the 10 heuristics. The site is not usable because it's not supporting the user in their goal. And specifically, it's actually broken when it comes to telling the user where they are, matching the words with what the user are actually expecting in the words do, which is heuristic evaluation number 2. Okay, so you will become more and more familiar, and the more you use them, the better you will be. And I will be showing you some examples tonight as well as we go through a real website. Before I continue, are there any questions about heuristic or heuristic evaluations or principles before we actually go and look at each one's high level? But at least I will expose you to, and I will give you a little snippet of what each heuristic really mean. Okay, so we have 10 heuristic. The first one is called visibility of system status. So that is related to telling the user when the system is doing something. So for example, if you are going to a site and then you click next, and the site is actually taking long time to actually load and take you to the next step, you have a little glass hourglass, or you have a little timer, or you have something on screen that tells you the site is thinking, hold on, wait, or you're gonna have wait, right? This is a way of feedback. This is a form of feedback. Let's say that you add an item to the cart. To a cart, you see this very often. When you add the item to the cart, there's now a number 1 that will show to your cart, shopping cart on your site to tell you that the item that you've added is actually been added. You're giving feedback. Something is happening. The system, what you wanted to do is actually happen. It's done. Or sometimes you'll get messages that will say your changes have been saved. You're just telling the user that whatever they were trying to do is actually completed. That's one way. The other way that you support visibility of the system status is, where am I? The breadcrumbs. Where is the web? Where is this page? Which section am I in? Sometimes you see that sections are highlighted. So it's a reminder to tell you where you are. The breadcrumbs, and I will look and I will show you the breadcrumbs when we look at air miles. The breadcrumbs is another way to give in feedback. Where are you? Which section of the site are you? Because remember, people will come to the site, they'll be interrupted, they're going to leave, they're going to come back. So you have to design for interruption. That's one key. So that is visibility of the system. The second one is matching between the system and the real world. All of what we're saying is the site using a language that the user is familiar with? So in your examples of Metro, you will want to pay attention to see if the labels that they're using are actually making sense. So are the labels, are the words meaningful? Are they known? Are they understood? So this is labeling, the categories are used, the wording that is used, even the sequence of the steps that are presented. Do they match what I expected I should be able to do? as well, in real life or on the website, because I've been to website in many others. User control and freedom. So another principle is giving user control and freedom to do things in a different way that they may want to do it. So you've seen that. If I think of user control and freedom in your latch, a lot of you said it's good the site for location is showing the destination per location, but it will be good to have an alternative where I can actually see all the destination and not have to click on all of them, so that I can see all the destination enlisted, or I can search all destination. So giving options to user is giving them control. Another example of a user control that we often see that is violated is sometimes you will go and you say, I want to check out my items, and they will force you to create an account. That is pretty bad. And I don't know if I'll have a chance to mention this, but forcing someone is never good. And you have a chance that the user will go. So that is violating user control and freedom. Forcing someone to give an email address is also forcing control and freedom. And the user will abandon it at that point. So we've already seen three. So tell me where I am, or tell me where I am. Tell me if the system is actually broken, or if the system is paused, and tell me if my changes have been saved. Tell me if my item has been added to my cart. Tell me if my order has been placed, right? Give me feedback. Then we say, speak my language, speak to me. How do we know that we're speaking a language? Is by knowing the customer and knowing the user. Then, do I give user control? Do I let the user decide in the way that he actually wants to go through the experience of buying brands? For example, if I'm going to the Metro website and you're forcing me to navigate to products or producers or milk, and not giving me the option to search instead of browsing, then you're removing some freedom from me. You're forcing me into one path, and then I may abandon, or I may choose to continue, but I may not be happy with the experience. But maybe I really have to buy those items. Let's look at number 4, consistency and standards. So are we consistent within the website? Is the website being consistent? So is the website using a consistent experience? Is the website using a consistent template? Is the website using consistent terminology within the website? Is the navigation always consistent? Is the layout consistent, so that I can learn? Once I've learned, then I'm becoming more familiar, I'm becoming better with the website. So it's consistency with the website itself. Now, it's also consistency with standards in terms of what I have seen on other sites. So that could be, is the logo where typically I find it? Is the navigation where I typically find it? Are the items for signing in my profile, changing my language? Where is search? Is the footer navigation? Is about us? Or is contact me where I typically expect it? Or is contact us where we often see that as being contact us, the label that you have chosen? What you're going to find in heuristic is sometimes it's hard to say which one has been violated. Okay. And then in that case, you can list 2 of them. And you're probably going to have, you're going to have a challenge when you're actually going through the experience for heuristic evaluation for the lab. Sometimes you don't really know which one is being violated. Then I say just list the 2. I'm not never going to penalize you for not picking the right one. I prefer you to take a chance. But you will come where you're going to say, it's not obvious to see which one it is. Then just list both of them. And you may very well have 2. You may have 3 as well. You may be unsure about 2 or 3, but just list them. It's okay. What's important is that you've actually gone through the exercise. And you've actually gone through the experience, and you've actually go through each of the heuristic and say, is visibility of the status well supported for my goal of buying groceries? Then you're going to say, is the label, is matching principle number 2 well supported when I actually do my grocery shopping? Is my user control and freedom supported when I do? So that if you go at the end, when you go through each of the principles, then you know that you've done a checklist for everything that could go wrong in the experience by making sure that you pay attention to each of the principles. The 5th one is error prevention. So this is the one that sometimes people have a challenge with. So is the site helping me to prevent error? Is the site helping me to not make errors as I go through this? I'll give you an example. Create a password. Often we still have sites that don't tell you What are the restrictions for the password? And then sometimes they'll say, we expect to have a letters, numerical, and special characters, and the minimum password has to be 8 characters. Sometimes they don't even tell you. And then you will go and you're not going to meet the feature, and then you're going to get a message error. It's upsetting, right? So this is a very good way of preventing error in the first place to happen as well. So we're going to see how we find this. Sometimes this one is hard to find, but providing help as well. This is another help in documentation. Sometimes preventing a little bit of help, and you'll see that there's going to be a little I. There's going to be a little I sign next to maybe a label or a field. That is a way to prevent error. They're giving you a little bit more guidance. But this one is also now number 10. You're providing help in documentation as for someone that is actually trying to do something on your site. Error prevention also includes good error messages. So you're giving error messages and being very clear on what has gone wrong. What did I do wrong? Obviously, when users are actually doing an error, it was not intentional. So do I know that there's an error? Do I understand the error? Do I know how to fix it? That's really important. So good error messages. Can I see where I have made a mistake? And then what is the mistake and how do I get out of the error state? That's the key. Recognition is rather than recall. That's probably the hardest one that I will tell you that people have a challenge. So recognition is about showing on screen. Recall is it's hiding and you have to remember where things are. So recognition will be to show you on screen. Here's an example. And you actually want to favor recognition versus recall. So you want to minimize the user memory load by making elements, actions, and options visible and on screen. Avoid making user having to remember the information. So if I add an item in my cart, often you're going to see number 1 to your cart. That is helping with recognition. I can recognize that I have an item in my cart. Adding a second item will change the number to 2. Now I remember I'm being told that I have 2 items in my cart. Another way that you help with recognition is as you go through your shopping cart and as you go through your checkout and you make selections. So let's say you're looking for a vacation and you're trying to buy a vacation. And as you go, then you start by picking your flights. You pick your dates, the number of people to travel. Then you go next step. The next step will say pick a hotel. When you're on step 2, often you have a little cart to your right-hand side, or you have a section that will tell you what you did before. So you remember. It's the same thing for the checkout. When you go through a checkout, most websites will list the products that you've selected. They even say, this is the product, they'll have an image, they'll have the number of items, they'll have the price, they'll have the color, the size, so that it's a reminder of what you have. You don't have to remember, it's there. Think of that. That is recognition. You want to support recognition over recall. So we're going to find some of these examples, but that's the one that people have a lot of challenge. Flexibility and efficiency of use. So flexibility, you give shortcuts. For someone who's an advanced user, then you're supporting someone who's advanced. For someone who's not an advanced user, you're providing guidance, but you're not impairing someone who's actually who's an advanced user. So feeling that as a user, I have flexibility. You're not forcing me down to one path. I have flexibility. I can pause or I can save, right? I can save my shopping cart for later. That is flexibility and efficiency of use. I can save my credit card. I can create an account. I can use my social login. Anything that will facilitate the life of a user will fall under flexibility and efficiency of use as well. Autofills, right? So autofills is a good example of efficiency of use, so that I don't have to retype. Here's another example of efficiency, flexibility, efficiency of use. Let's say that I've made an error on my payment card, my credit card, and then I went submit, and I get an error that says, Yves, you forgot to put your expiry date for your credit card. I'm clear. I know that it's my credit card expiry date. You've told me, I understand that I have to fill it out. Imagine if I have erased all of my credit card information. I have to retype it. Then that's not efficient. Okay. So, and there are multiple examples like that too. eighth principle is aesthetic and minimalist design. I will say you as designer is probably the one that you'll be focusing the most on, and you're probably going to often use that one. But is it aesthetically appealing? And minimalist design, but minimalist design, let's not confuse minimalist design with white space. Minimalist design means that the interface should not contain information which is irrelevant. So what is on screen is relevant for me at this moment. Every extra unit of information is an interface competes in an interface competes with the relevant units of information. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're providing the information that they really need at this moment. You're asking them the questions that they really need to answer at this moment. But you're giving support, or you're giving an option for maybe someone to get more information. But it's going to be a link, or it's going to open up another page or something. But what is on page is really important for that task, for that user goal at this moment. That's the minimalist design. It's not about wide design and reading. It's about, do I present the options, the information that is important and relevant? Okay. Recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors. This number 5 and number 9 are very, very connected. Is the error message is clear and telling me that there's an error? Do I know how to fix, get out, and then how do I get out of errors? So I will say number 5, 9. Number 5 is trying to prevent error in the first place, but then it's also connected when errors happen is number 9. So 5 and 9 is when error happen, I try to prevent, but an error happen. What was the experience of knowing that there's an error, knowing where, and how do I get out of the error state? And then we have the last one, which is help and documentation. So this is the one that people confuse a lot, often with, because it says help and documentation, they will look at the site and they will say the site has FAQ, the site has a help and documentation, so the heuristic is supported. Partially true, but most of the time it's untrue, and I will tell you why. It has to be looked at in the context of doing the user goal. And when someone is actually trying to do a goal and they're focused in the middle of the screen, so, and it's called locus of attention. So when the customer is actually doing something online, they're very focused in the middle of the screen. So they're going to be in the middle of the screen. They're actually not going to know, they're not going to be paying much attention to what's around it. They're going to be in there. They're going to be on the form. They're going to be on the page that they are on, and they will try to understand what it is that they need to do, right? And how it's matching what they want to do. So providing help and documentation is at that, it's there. In that experience, am I helping someone who needs maybe more information at this particular moment? Maybe I'm asking someone to make a choice that they may not be clear. I would say that's bad design, because if I know the user and what it is they're trying to do, I should have designed something that will make sense to them. But there are times where sometimes I need to maybe give them more guidance. So am I giving them guidance in the task when they're doing the task? And guidance sometimes can be a piece of info in brackets. Sometimes it may be a label that has a little bit explanation on it. Maybe sometimes it may be a little eye that I click and I roll over, or I click and I get a bit of information. Or sometimes it can be a link that says learn more or more help, that opens up another window so that you're not out. It doesn't take you out of your task. That is help in documentation. So help in documentation is not just having a help site, a link for help, or a section on your navigation that says help, or an FAQ. It's providing help and support within the task. Very, very important. So these are the 10 heuristics. Okay, so I'm going to pause here, and we are going to look at some heuristic, real-time, live heuristic. Are there any questions about any of the heuristics? You're probably feeling information overload. You've never heard of them. There are 10. You'll get familiar. But are there anything that you want to ask me about one heuristic, particularly about the heuristic or one heuristic? Aesthetic. So yes, absolutely. Aesthetic and minimalist. So aesthetic, think of aesthetic as, is there a noise? Is there a lot of noise on the page? Am I distracting the user? Or am I really presenting to the user on the page really what is the most important for them at this particular moment? Am I trying to keep them in a task, or am I actually giving them options to actually get lost and leave the site? And I will show you some examples, Sophia. So it's beyond the creative. I want you to think beyond creative, beyond images, beyond is there enough white space? It's am I showing on screen what is really important for the user at this particular moment? And I will point to you some answer. Sometimes what you will see is there might be text or there might be options that are not at all relevant. They may actually be about leaving. Sites, ads, yes. So Julian ads says, what about ads? Yeah, ads can be distracted, but I will tell you, Julian, if you've done a good job at designing, at helping me to find what I'm trying to do, so place a grocery store, grocery shopping, and place an online grocery order. If you're doing a good job at helping me to find where I go and then help me to do it, I'm going to ignore the ads on the round. But if you put an ad right in the middle, then that could be a distractor. That's a bit risky. So that would then violate the minimalist design. Yes. Good question. So it's really, you have to ask yourself with aesthetic is, am I only presenting what's important to the user at this point? Is there a chance that they may actually leave because I'm presenting to them an option that will take them to another place? And am I trying to ask them to do something that is not really relevant? We're going to find some information. Would autofill for credit card information be relevant for number 6 as recognition, or is that different? That's a good question. So arrow, it can actually do two things. It can actually help you for recognition because it will remind you maybe which credit card, right, we saved for you. And it will remind you. So recognition is about reminding you. So it will remind you maybe the address that you had. So it acts like two things. It gives you recognition, but it's also flexibility and efficiency of use. It's efficient, right? See, it's not always easy, right, to think about which heuristic. But here's the key thing. When you begin your lab, don't even think about the heuristic. I said, have your list of heuristic available, but when you go to a site, don't think about the heuristic yet. Think about the user goal. So you're going to think about placing a grocery order using Metro. Then go through the experience. Forget about the heuristic initially. Go through the experience and make note of things that you think are actually weird, broken, they feel wrong. It feels not good. We're focusing on what is no good. You can also list the things that are good, but often we want to do a heuristic to see what is broken. But you also sometimes do want to make sure that you make note of things that are good, because if you're redoing a redesign, you don't want to lose the good things, right? If you're completely revamping your site, and often the business will say, can you do a evaluation of our site? And then you want to tell them what's broken so that we can fix it in the new site, but you also want to tell them what's good so that we don't lose it, right? And that's important. But begin with the user goal and go through the experience and make note of anything that you think is actually broken. And then, when you feel that you've gone through the experience and you've pretty much surfaced everything that you want, go back, then go to heuristics, heuristic principle. Start with then visibility of the system status, and then you go back and you try to do again the experience, and then you can say, is the site helping with visibility of the status principle? Then you will say it is or it's not, and here's where it's not. Then you move on and you say matching with system in the real world. Are the labels is a language that the user will understand? Do I actually understand what they're asking me to do? Do they use a language that actually speaks to me, right? Or speaks to the user that I think the user will be. Then I make note of anything that I think is actually broken when it comes to matching system. And then control. Then you go through, is this experience putting me in control as a user? So then you can do that for all of your, each of the principles, and then you have a complete list at that point. You'll feel you have a complete list. Okay, so let's see number 2. So there's a question on the chat. Would pop-up message be relevant for number 10? It depends. It depends if the pop-up message is actually something that I ask. Help in documentation is it's usually something that the user will do, or they will be looking for help. A pop-up sometimes is there to interrupt, and it has nothing to do with what you're trying to do. So I will say at that point, the system has assumed that maybe you want that piece of information, but I will say at that point, it's probably inefficiency of use and it's more intrusive than anything, and it's violating number 7 because now I have to close. It's interrupting me, right? Usually help in documentation is something that you will ask for as the customer. It's not forced on you, but if you need help and you're unsure, then it's there and it's supported. And I can ask or I can click on something to get more help so that I get the answer to, so I can continue my task. Okay. So let's go through a live example. Very good, all very good questions. So first of all, are you happy with the knowing that we have those usability heuristics that you can rely on to do your assessments of any of the website? You'll do it for lab, and you'll have a chance to do it for the site, the company you've selected, and that will be your initial assessment of the site. Are you happy with the heuristic, the 10 principle heuristic, 10 principle? Okay, they're very useful. So that gives you a language. That gives you something a lot more solid to be able to say, Mr. Client, the site is actually problematic for someone who wants to place an order, and here's why and how. It makes you so much smarter. And something to keep in mind, though, most of your clients may not know about heuristic evaluation, the 10 heuristic principles they may not care about. But for you, at least, you have 10 things that you can refer to that you can tell the customer. You may never mention the heuristic evaluation to your customer. You could include them as an appendix if you wanted, but at least when you say the experience is broken, here's why. We're not telling the user when I go next, there's no feedback and users sit there and some of them abandon. The language that we use is actually not matching with what people are familiar with. We don't give user control. When you force the user to register for checkout, it's pretty bad. There's research that will tell you 30% of people abandon the cart because they're forced of doing an account creation. But you could also say, we know that it's also bad because you're not putting the user in control, and they don't have freedom, and they will leave your site. And then you could say, you look at your analytics. So this will come and enhance all of your rationale when you say something is broken. We see in our analytics that people abandon when we ask them to do to create an account to check out. And here's what we think is actually people are abandoning. They feel that they're losing user control. It's just giving you another ammunition or things that you can bring to the table, and you're going to sound like you're pretty confident and you know what good experience design and bad experience design is. So we are going to go on and we are going to look at the heuristic in details. I have a feeling that we are not going to be able to go through all of the PowerPoint because it's already 2:30, but you will have a chance to go through the entire PowerPoint and deck. I go in a lot more details about how do we even assign priority to the problems that we find. How do we assign a severity? Because what's going to happen is when you do your heuristic evaluation, even with our lab, I don't know if in the lab I ask you to give a sense of priority, but you're gonna, let's say you have a list of 25 items that are broken. Your clients will want to know which one do I need to fix first, right? So you have to think about a sense of priority. And the PowerPoint goes in a lot more detail about how do I prioritize these items. So at the end of your going through the user goal of buying groceries, and then going through all of the heuristic and the issues that you found, you're going to need to say, okay, I have 10, 15 issues. Which one do I fix first, right? The severity is which one do I need to fix first? So you can have you're going to have items that are showstopper. You don't often have showstopper, but I will tell you, forcing someone to create an account to me is a showstopper. And but yeah, the user can actually continue, but I would be confident that the analytics will tell me that it's really, really hurting our conversion, and a lot of people are abandoning for that. So I would almost classify it as a showstopper. Then you will look at what are some of the problems that are major problem. Often often. And I think you'll have a bit of a sense of what is something major. I think something major is not speaking someone's language. So if the site uses language that the user don't understand, I think it's pretty major. Because it means they're not finding what they want. And you're going to learn in information architecture the importance of labels, labeling the categories and the grouping. So when the information architecture is broken and the labels are broken, information architecture is very much about number two because of labeling and how we speak to the user. I will say that's pretty major. It's something that really has to be reconsidered. User control and freedom can also be major to high severity. There is not one way of defining severities. You just pick one, but you just need to understand that it's there so that you can guide your client to what do I need to really fix. Brand, images, color, I would usually have a tendency to report them as low impact because even if something is not in the color or in the style that we should, if I can actually do and I can do my goal, so function over form, then that's a lot more important and critical than if something doesn't look necessarily on brand. But if I can place my order, that's much better than having to deal with the brand issues. I love this. So Tanisha has a recommendation for a movie called The Intern. I haven't, but I will make note of it. Thank you. So and then so the priority is important. I talked about how do we assign priority, and it's the last step. It's really the final step. So there's more to the deck, and please, you will have to read through the deck on your own. But now let's do a little bit of a real life review of the principles. So I want to go through the principles that you know. As we go through, I will point to you what would be some of the principles that have been violated. I'm not going to be able to cover all of them, but I just want to give you a sense of what some of them are. And again, it will be with practice. So it will be with practice. You're not going to be penalized if you end up not matching the right issue to the right principles that is being violated, but at least I will know that you've made the effort. Okay. So they're there for you just as another checklist. As when you've gone through the experience by yourself, then you can go through the 10th principle and say, how is the experience supporting all of my principle one by one? Okay. So that's going to be the goal. So let's go through Air Miles. But before I go to Air Miles, I don't know if anybody is familiar with Air Miles, the loyalty program. Are we all familiar with the Air Miles loyalty program in Canada? Okay, so let's think of a user goal. Okay, great. So let's, again, we always think with the user goal, right? So what would be one of the user goals? So you may want to type it in a chat, and I'm going to do a live demo with you, and I'm actually going to do think aloud. So I'm doing a few things at the same time. I will show you the technique thinking aloud, and I will show you. It's almost as if we were actually doing usability testing, because I'm going to be almost like a participant trying to do the user goal, going through Air Miles. So I'm a bit doing usability testing and your observer, okay? But I'm trying to do this exercise, and this is live, right? I haven't prepared this. I'm going through live. I've been to the site. I know it's broken, but I'm going to try to apply and point to you some of the heuristics that are violated as we go. So they're going to come in any order, right? The heuristic value, the 10 principle will pop up at any point at any time. And then I will try to do my best to see, but you may also see some. And if you want to pause me as I go through the site, please pause me. And then you can say, teacher, I think this principle is violated. That will be awesome too. So don't be shy to stop and say, Mr. Professor, what about this? Or you can say, okay, could this also be this principle? So let's make this fun. But I'm a participant trying to give you an example of how you would apply and this is what you will do when you actually go through the site by yourself. Are we good? Are we good to go? Can we think of a user goal? So what would be the user goal or the experience or the micro journey that we think, or why would someone go to airmiles.ca? Can someone give me that experience or that goal? So why would someone go to Air Miles? If you're an Air Miles, okay, redeem points. Awesome, perfect. Okay, so we're gonna do redeem points. Okay, so redeem points. So let's assume that that's what we want to do in redeems, and everybody's very comfortable with redeeming points, using my points, right? Cash in my points, redeem points. That's the experience. So we're going to do that. We had another experience. Check your MS points and what you spend points on. Great. So that would be another user point, a user journey that you would want to define. And it starts with finding. Can I find redeem points? So we have a user goal, finding redeem points. Is this aligned with AirMiles business objective? Do we think that these are critical goals? Yes, they are, right? AirMiles makes money when people redeem their points. Okay, very critical. They want you to collect, they want you to redeem, and that's really, really critical. So we have room for supporting the business, we're supporting the user, and it's a very critical user goal. So now I'm gonna go to the site as if I'm a user, and I'm gonna look for something that says redeem points, because that's probably one. So I'm gonna be scanning, and now I'm gonna move on to AirMiles, and I will think aloud, so you will know, you will see live. And this is almost as if I'm actually doing usability testing. So this should be fun. Hey, bear with me, make notes. You can make notes, you can stop me into chat. If you want to stop me into chat, please go on voice, because I'm actually on the site, so I can't really see what the chat is happening. So let's go in. Okay, so I'm using Think Aloud now. So I'm an AirMiles collector. When you do usability testing, you obviously want to bring someone who's representative of your audience. So this is going to be part of the screener. It's going to be one of the first deliverable for assignment, is building the profile, the questionnaire, to make sure that we bring people that are relevant. So let's pretend I'm actually an AirMiles member. I actually worked at AirMiles. I'm an AirMiles member. I have points. I've collected. I want to redeem my points. So I'm a little bit biased because I know the product. But you know what? The chances are at this point, when you're at the point that you want to redeem AirMiles, you've already been trained to the AirMiles program. You know about the AirMiles program, which is good. It's good to know. You need to know that. But versus someone who's actually never been to the program who wants to join, they're not gonna know much about the lingo, right? So match the system. Principle number 2, for someone who's actually going to redeem, I'm already more familiar with the language. So, but you need to know what am I familiar with, so that you can accommodate number 2, principle 2, matching my real world. So I'm going to redeem miles now, and I'm looking for, I want to redeem miles. So I'm going to think a lot as if I were. I'm actually looking for something that will say redeem your points. So right now, I don't see anything that says redeem. I can see offer, I can see rewards, I can see travel, I can see how. How is offers different than rewards? Is offer and rewards, I'm not really sure, but maybe I'm gonna go to rewards. So there's a bit of a mismatch here with my redeem points, or even finding redeem points, okay? So the mismatch is maybe sometimes somehow violated, but I'm having a hard time finding it, right? I'm guessing, so I'm gonna say I don't think it's offers, but maybe it's rewards. And I'm actually, now what do I want to redeem my points on? That's the only thing, right? We probably even want to be more specific, but I don't know. I just want to redeem, and I want to see what my options are. So rewards, cash rewards, dream rewards. What is cash reward? What is dream rewards? I'm a bit lost here. So matching is pretty bad. Cash rewards, I have no clue what cash rewards is. In-store partners, e-vouchers, merchandise, events and attractions, travel. I actually want to redeem for travels, okay? So you see there was a bit of thinking here. If you were taking notes, you would be making a lot of notes at this point. So I want to redeem flights. I actually want to use my points for flights. Might as well take you here, use your miles, flights. Okay, great. So I'm clicking on flights, prepare for takeoff. What do I see? Flights. Okay, prepare for takeoff. See where miles can take you, starting from as low as that. Book a flight. Okay, I'm going to book a flight. This is what I want to do. Advanced search, round trip, departure location, flights. Okay, my departure location, so Toronto. So I'm typing in Toronto, which is probably what most people will do. And good, they're telling me that I can also look at Billy Shaw. So they're giving me a bit of guidance here. They're doing help and documentation. They also even preventing me error. They're doing a few things here. They're preventing me error, and they also give me alternatives, right? I can do Billy Shop, and they're telling me they give me
Professors,
good with,
sorry
yes.
to interrupt. Your screen is broken. I mean, frozen. Not broken, frozen.
Oh, my screen is frozen?
Yeah, we can't fully. It's stuck on book a flight.
Oh, because you know what happened? Thank you for saying this is really annoying. They're actually keep opening a pop-up. You see they've opened a pop-up. So so now I have to go and just sharing. So is the is opening up a pop-up very effective? I would question and I would probably measure and try to test that. But now you should see it. Do you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so they've opened just a new tab, but in Blackboard, every time a new tab is open, I have to reopen. So I'm going through the experience, and they're kind of doing a few things. So I've actually typed in, I'm gonna redo it. So I'm really going, and so far it's pretty good. I'm doing a round trip and one way in multi-city. I'm actually doing round trip, but I just noticed the round trip now. Okay, but I've managed my way to this search, and then my departure location. I've typed in Toronto, but I know Toronto Airport, and I type Toronto Airport. It's supporting me. It gives me flexibility. Okay, then it also says that I can also check out Billy Bishop if I want with YTZ, which is good. They're giving me guidance / help and documentation. Let's say that I want to leave sometime in November 8 and I want to come back in November 15. Where do I want to go? I want to go to Cancun. So I like Cancun. Then how many travelers? So I go through the experience so far and Dream Miles tickets. Oh boy. Okay. Now I'm confused. Okay, the dream miles, the cash miles is coming back again. And I will say this is pretty bad and pretty showstopper almost. And I say that because I've seen this site, but I have no clue what Dream Miles is. You are unable to use Dream Miles towards infants tickets. I don't even know what Dream Miles are. I don't even know what cash tickets is. Opportunity for help and documentation. Okay, this is a very good example. You see how I've mentioned that I don't expect, and I'm focused in here. I'm in the middle of the page right now. I'm in the middle. I'm not looking for help, anything to the right or to the left. Now I'm noticing that's something that says, I have a question, require additional assistance, visit our travel assistant page. Okay, they're giving me, but I was really in this area, and I would almost give up at this point. I have low patience when it comes to, and this is the second time, right, that I see dreams and cash, and I go, what is this? I already had a challenge at the beginning. So I carry on, and I don't know what Dream Miles asked and what cash tickets are. Like, I'm really confused. So now they're asking me to make a choice that I don't know. So it's not matching the number two. It's not matching the real world with my language. It's forcing me to answer something that I don't know. It's not efficient. So you see how it's violating a lot of issues. I'm actually getting very annoyed with, and I don't really know what to do at this point. I could actually I may end up abandoning, and I may end up having to call someone. Now, if I call someone, it's expensive for the business because now someone has to take my phone. I could probably give a try to do view our travel assistant page, and if I were in the usability testing, I would maybe do. Okay, I would maybe go, but I would probably abandon, and then I would probably be calling. But let's pretend that I'm actually say I'm going to use my Dreams Mile Cash, and there are two of us. But I'm afraid that at some point they're probably going to stop me from continuing and then find flights. Okay, this is a weird label. So number two, find flights. Why isn't just search, right? So because really I'm searching, but I was thinking that find flights will take me to another place, but search would actually just be a standard, familiar and standard with what we've seen. Tell me I'm actually searching. Okay, great. What happens? Oh boy. Get ready to smile. Sign in today or not a collector. So I am a collector. So now they're forcing me to sign in. I just want to see. I'm still shopping, still browsing. You see, they're forcing me user control. Number three, they're validating my user control. I'm still shopping. I'm still looking for my options. You don't need to know who I am. You don't need to sign in at this point. So you're forcing me into a path. And if you think about if we would have done, and we should have done this, when we've said, let's think of a user goal, we should have done before we come to Air Miles, make a list of what it is that we think that will happen when I actually want to redeem. Okay, and I will maybe share with you. I had given Air Miles as an assignment to other students. Maybe I could share with you and outline everything that is wrong with Air Miles. You'll see it's a long list. we should have started with listing what do we think we want to do when we want to redeem. When I want to redeem, I want to see a place that says redeem. Then I want to know what can I redeem my miles on? What are my options, right? What are my options for redeeming? And then pick my options. One of them is maybe air flights, travels. Then see how many points do I need, right? Is it available? How many points do I need? And then I will book my flight. But nowhere here I've mentioned signing up or logging in. Da, 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 da. Perhaps I know how many points I have, right? Or remind me about the number of points that I have too. There are many, many ways that we can facilitate. But right now they're forcing me. So this I would list again. I'm just shopping. Give me a search result. Give me a search result so I can see. I don't even know what my login is, and I would probably abandon at this point. So, but this is really, I would say this is a showstopper. And you will see a lot of sites are trying to get you to do something, to sign in, give an email before they give you results. That's bad. I'm still shopping. I'm very, very high in my funnel, but you're making this not a fun experience. So I abandon. And that is one experience of going through the site and trying to do something very simple. It should be simple. Air miles is really problematic. So it's almost 2:50. We're almost at the end of the class, isn't it? Unfortunate. Gone fast. You will have to continue through the deck and the PowerPoint. But before we go, are there any questions about just that experience and that demo? And how do we tie in user experience? And then we go through the experience, and then we start listing the issues. Me, I was able to list the issues and give you the heuristic, but you don't have to think about the heuristic initially. Go through the experience and make things that are annoying. You find annoying, then you come back and say, I think it's broken. The issue is with error prevention, user control. Then you can go back and say, are they doing a good job with visibility? Are they doing a good job with help and documentation? Are they doing a good job with minimalist design as well? All of that. Feedback, questions, insights, or reactions to anything that we've looked at. Hey, Marisa.
Hi. Quick
Hi.
question. So when we look at this heuristic evaluation, are we
Yes.
trying to, I guess, kind of make a quantitative analysis when you're done at any point? Like saying,
No,
oh,
it's not
five
about,
of them
it's
are
not about,
bad. Yeah.
yeah. It's not about having a high number of issues.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's finding problems. It's finding problems, a list of problems that you feel. And remember, for the lab, you're going to pick one user goal. So let's say that you pick Metro. And for Metro, you said, I'm going to returning an item. Maybe you have an item that came from your grocery and then you want to return an item. Then you're going to say, I'm going to go through that experience. Find as many issues as you can. Usability testing is not about it's not a quantitative studies, and we don't need to talk about reaching statistical significance. And you will find that some issues are serious enough that they need to be fixed, because the chances are everybody who's going through the experience are actually you're hurting them. So it's not having a high number. It's just coming up with a list. But I want you to give me a sense of, perhaps, do you think it's a showstopper? Do you think it's a high severity, mid severity, or low severity? And that's it. It's not about quantity, it's about quality.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and you will find issues, right? So again, this is your first time you're going to use the heuristic. So don't, just give it a try. This is just to try, and I will give you feedback on the lab that you will do, and you will get better and better as you do the assignment. This will prepare you, Marisa, to know exactly where am I going to be focusing my usability testing.
Okay.
We already know with air miles, we should be focusing the usability testing on the redeem journey.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree what we saw is pretty bad?
Right. Yes, definitely.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not quantity, it's quality. It's going through the exercise and try it. So it's 2:50. You have a break before you go to Yvonne. I had more I had the intention to do a little bit more today in class, and unfortunately, it's an important topic. But next week we will continue. So we will continue to do a little bit more heuristic. I think that we're going to continue, and I'm going to see where I need to maybe give more guidance based on the on the lab. And I had some exercises, some class exercises that I wanted to do today this week, but we're not going to be able to. But maybe this week, next week, we'll get to it. As well. So, but think of a user goal, do the lab. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to help and assist. And then tomorrow we'll see you at 5111 for the other class. So this lab is a practice. So you're practicing the heuristic, and then there's an assignment, right? There's the first assignment is the heuristic evaluation, and the heuristic evaluation is not for the big old project that we're sharing for 5111. It will be for the project that you would have picked outside of Yvonne's. So it's for the same. You have to pick the same brand for our assignment. So let's make go because I don't want to misquote anybody. So we have assignment 5, 6, and 7 that you have to pick a brand, right? A company. So you could pick Air Miles if you wanted, but you're gonna have for the assignments. I'm not talking for the lab. For the assignments 5, 6, and 7, you're gonna pick the same brand that you're gonna do, and we're gonna start for heuristic evaluation. Then we're gonna do usability testing as assignment number 6. And then we're going to do eye tracking for assignment number 7. And assignment number 8 will be the big project in conjunction with 5111. And it's either going to be Loblaws, Netflix, Uber Eats, and someone else, Zoom. But that's going to be the big project. So we're still just talking about labs and small assignments. If you can think of the small assignment, number 5, 6, and 7. But you have to pick a brand. Some of you, I think, said Nintendo, others. Have you at least picked a brand for assignment 5, 6, and 7? That's what you should really be focusing on. Good. I knew, Michael, you would have Nintendo, but everybody else, you have to pick a brand for assignment 5, 6, 7. This is not the big project. 5, 6, 7 is to practice for the big project. Okay, so make sure you all have a brand. And if I can ask a favor, can you put the name of the brand that you've picked for assignment 5, 6, 7 on the Teams listing? That would be great. So Marisa, pick a brand, pick any brands. But you will have to have a brand for assignment number 5, right? And assignment number 5, the heuristic evaluation, this is the first real assignment, is due for September 28th. But this week's lab is Metro. Everybody's doing Metro. But we're getting closer that you need to have a company chosen, and please update the team list. So go on break. I'm sorry, I've taken 5 minutes of your break. Thank you for the class sessions. If I feel that I need to give more supportive notes, look for an announcement on Canvas. But everything that you need this week is all listed on Blackboard, and you have all the readings, the information. If you need information, please reach out. Yes, you have to pick a brand that is different than the big project. Absolutely. The big project is the assignment 5, 6, 7 is not for the big project. So you need to pick a different brand. And I'm going to share the link here on the chat. So you need to have a different project than the big project, a different brand than the big, than for the assignment 5, 6, 7. So very important. And it cannot be Zoom, Netflix, Uber Eats, or Netflix or Loblaws for assignment 5, 6, 7. It has to be a different brand that you pick. Okay, I thought I copied link address. Hopefully it's done. Okay, so please update the name of your brand. The company, it can be any brand, but pick a brand that you'll have fun with. We'll see you tomorrow for 5111, and enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed today's sessions, and the more you do heuristic, the better you'll get at it. Thank you so much. I'm here. I can still be here for 5 minutes if there are any questions.
Hi, Eve.
Hi, they're on break. I feel bad. I've taken on like 5 minutes of their breaks, but
Oh, okay. I'll give them an
yeah.
extra 5 minutes.
So maybe you do want to give a little extra 5
Yeah.
minutes.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
So
Thanks.
Rudy was here. Enjoy. Have a good class.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.